Hello. Thank you for joining me while we observe signs of continued human evolution. I'm Jack Harte. There'll be a short pause while the audience says, "Who cares?" Now, signs of continued human evolution, what does that mean? It can mean just about anything. But essentially, through this, we'd like to look at how things change and how things stay the same. How we are connected to the caveman and how we are different. Now, for this first episode, what I'd like to talk about is the fact that I'm doing this blog at all. You know, even the word blog, what does that mean? You know, it's a contraction of the two words web blog. Someone decided to cut off the W-E at the beginning. I'm not sure, you know, why wouldn't they take off the O-G at the end and call it like a webble? Or just a weblog, for that matter. We're going to go to that extent. Yeah, but we as human beings have a tendency to contract our words, some officially and formally, like didn't, short for did not, or won't, short for will not, ain't, short for ain't not. And, you know, the fact that people are doing these weblogs, these blogs, you know, at one point people used to keep the journals, and people would read them, they'd have a chance to read someone's prolific and profound thoughts and so forth after a person was dead. And that people tended to keep their journals and diaries to themselves. People would write letters to friends and, you know, to one person. Of course, someone would write a letter to one person indicating whatever is going on in his or her life, so forth. And, you know, or Christmas letters, holiday letters, New Year's letters, things like that, or newsletters to the Cousins Club, and keep people updated on people's lives. Christmas cards, people used to do that, and they still do. But somehow or another, this weblog and other internet-based activities seems to be that it's important for people at this point to discuss each and every bit of minutia that goes on in people's lives. Twitter, people are writing down, you know, just went to the bathroom, oh, flushing, so forth, and but anyway, that's what we're doing. And so here's my opportunity to talk about something that I've thought about for a long time: signs of continued human evolution. What's going on with people in the world? How, you know, what am I doing different these days from what my ancestors did, or from what I did before, or, you know, what people in general. So it's a good thing, I guess. And hopefully people will have the time, on top of everything else that we'll have to do, to consume this. Now, so at any rate, I'm doing a blog. And where am I doing it from? I'm doing it from my car. I'm on Interstate 90, the Massachusetts Turnpike right now, and it is about 8:55 in the morning. I'm heading to the Weston Tolls, and my cell phone, not to sound like a commercial, but my HTC Evo from Sprint is clamped to a device that is suction cupped to my windshield. And I'm talking at length, and this is being recorded and broadcast live, and it can be saved for viewing later by people. And, you know, which is fascinating in and of itself. You know, when I was a kid, we had a telephone. We had one telephone. We had 8 television that had 3 VHF channels and 2 UHF channels, excuse me, we had 4 VHF channels, channel 2 cable. And that's how we would get our news. We'd watch the news at 6 o'clock. We would watch other programs. You know, we had our choice of 3 primetime programs and 2 channels that were either showing old movies or reruns of shows or sporting events. Perhaps some local programming during the day, which very little exists anymore on any station. And if we wanted to contact somebody, as I said before, we wrote a letter or we made a phone call. When I was very young, we had, I remember our first telephone, my first experience with the communication situation was a black Bakelite desk phone that had a rotary dial on it. You stuck your finger in a hole and you pulled it towards the little stop that was in the middle of the dial, and you and you know, dialing a phone would take, you know, 17 minutes just to call one person, and you know, and if you're trying to call a radio station well, we also had radio. If you were trying to call a radio station to win a prize, win a contest, then you know, if the phone was busy, you had to dial again, and it would, you know, 3 times dialing, you know, a minute and a half would be gone. And at any rate, this Bakelite phone was sitting in the china cabinet in what was, well, you'd call it a dining room in that particular apartment. And actually eventually became my mother's bedroom. And it was sort of more of a family room. We had 5 rooms, one of which we really couldn't go in so much, the parlor, and 6 kids. So the TV was in what would otherwise be called a dining room, and there was a Castro convertible couch in there, and I remember a dining room table until I think Patsy Flanagan bought it, or we gave it to her, no such thing. But at any rate, that particular phone went away when, and the phone was hardwired. There was a wire that came out of the phone, and it went into a small box on the wall down around the baseboard, and it was wired in there. And if you wanted to do anything to it, change anything to it, move it, fix it, repair it, you had to call the phone company, and the phone company technician would have to come in and take the thing apart, tools and so forth, and forget about moving it. You know, you talk there in the living room, and if there are other people in the room, so what? In those days, people used to have telephone tables. It was an actual piece of furniture called a telephone table, and usually it was a low table, maybe about 18 inches by 18 inches. Typically had a seat attached to it, and there was usually a space in there for a phone book and place for your ashtray. Most people smoked, especially when they're on the phone. Ashtray, a cup of coffee. And one of those little personal phone books that you had that had a little slider deal on it, and you'd slide the deal down to the letter of the first name of the person you're looking to call, and you hit a button, and it would magically open to that page. Amazing piece of technology. People would regularly schedule calls with friends or family, relatives, and they would sit and they would talk for hours on these things. And that's how we communicated with each other. Eventually our telephone moved into the kitchen and was still hardwired. The wire actually went down through the floor and into the basement, as I recall, and connected up with something or other down there. It was yellow. And so you'd sit at the kitchen table and you'd have a conversation. Now I have a lot of sisters, and if they wanted to, you know, talk girly and so forth and chew gum and twirl their hair, while they were talking, they would have to given the length of the cord on the phone, that either they'd have to go into the broom closet or try and stretch the phone cord around into one of the 2 bedrooms in the house. And so eventually we called the phone company. We had them bring a longer cord. And somebody actually had to come down and dismantle the phone, install that longer cord. Now eventually we got modular phones, small plug that just pressed into the into a 4-pin, pressed into a little thing on the wall. That was called a